So today, we're going to dive into this really powerful idea. What if the biggest, heaviest obstacles in your life aren't just random accidents? What if they're actually part of a divine blueprint, something that's preparing you for a future you can't even see yet?
We all have them. We call them rocks. Whether it's in your job, your health, or your family, they're those struggles that just don't seem to have any purpose other than to block your way. They just feel heavy, totally useless, and, well, they're just in the way.
In this quote from a farmer named David in the story we're looking at, man, it probably sounds super familiar, right? It's that raw feeling of looking at your life and just thinking you've been dealt a bad hand, maybe that you've even been cursed.
But what if, and this is the question that just flips everything upside down, what if that very thing you absolutely hate, the biggest problem you have, is actually your greatest blessing in disguise, a hidden provision you just haven't understood yet? Okay, so to really get this, we've got to look at how we usually see these obstacles. And we'll do that through the story of David, this farmer whose entire inheritance was basically one giant problem.
And David's problem, it was a total nightmare. His land wasn't just, a little difficult. It was literally impossible to farm. It was so full of rocks that plows would just break on them. Any seeds he planted had nowhere to take root. To David and pretty much everyone else, that land was a curse, period.
And you know what? This isn't really that different from the kinds of rocks we can face right in our own homes. The source material draws this incredible parallel. Think about it. The painful arguments, those long seasons of distance, the tension you can cut with a knife, a home that just feels fractured. That can feel just as impossible to cultivate as a field of rocks.
But then, the story takes a huge turn. A terrible drought hits the entire village, and everything changes. And it's right here, in the middle of this crisis, that a totally different way of seeing things starts to show up. You could call it a divine perspective.
And this is where we see that incredible shift. While all the other fields in the village were turning to dust, David discovered something amazing. His rocks, the things he hated, were actually shielding the soil underneath, trapping what little moisture there was. What he saw as a curse was actually a perfectly designed provision for a disaster nobody saw coming. They weren't obstacles at all, they were shields.
So let's take that same idea and bring it home, to our own family struggles. Our source material explains that what we see as painful cracks and silence, God sees as proof of value. Think about it. No enemy wastes their ammo on an empty, worthless fort. That tension, that struggle, it's proof that there's a love in that house that's worth fighting for, a love that endures. And all of this, it kind of leads us to this huge idea of trusting the process, right? Of having faith that there's a divine architect at work, even when we have absolutely no idea what the blueprints look like. There's a village elder in David's story who just nails it. He says God gives everyone exactly what they need, not what they want. Those rocks weren't what David wanted, not even close, but they were exactly what he was going to need. It suggests that our own struggles are these perfectly tailored provisions, getting us ready for something we can't yet see.
And here's the thing, that work, it's usually microscopic. The source is really clear that this kind of transformation doesn't happen in some big explosion. Nope, it happens in 10,000 tiny choices. Choosing a word of kindness when you want to be angry, deciding to just listen instead of reacting, making the choice to stay present instead of retreating. These little things, these are the real building blocks.
I mean, think about it. The source actually says that the most painful parts of our story, our tears of worry, our quietest prayers, those small acts of grace, are the very construction materials God uses. Nothing is wasted. It all gets woven into the foundation of a legacy that'll last for generations.
Okay, so where do we fit into all this? What's our part to play? Well, it's definitely not to just sit back and do nothing. The sources are clear that our role is incredibly powerful, just maybe not in the way we usually think. This is where we get into the power of what's happening behind the scenes. Your prayers, your faith, they're not just wishful thinking. According to the source, they are actively creating new pathways, opening doors in the spiritual realm, and paving the way for a healing that no one else can even see yet. And this gives us this amazing picture for what our role is supposed to be. We're not meant to be the rescue boat, getting tossed around by every storm and trying to save everyone. That's exhausting, and frankly, it's not our job. Our role is to be the lighthouse, steady, consistent, a light that just keeps burning. That's it. It's God's job to guide the ship safely home.
All right, so after all this, what's the payoff? Where does it all lead? Let's jump back to David's story one last time to see the final outcome, the harvest that came from all those rocks.
Just one. That's it. While every other farm in the village turned to dust, David's cursed land, it produced the only successful crop. The very things he hated became the tools for his survival and his blessing. The harvest was real, and it was nothing short of miraculous.
And that promise of a harvest, it's not just for David. It's for our families too. The sources give us this beautiful picture of what that restoration looks like. Laughter coming back into a tense home. Deep, honest conversations finally starting. Reconciliation filling in the cracks. And divine provision showing up right at the last minute, just when it's needed most. It's a picture of incredible hope.
So really, the big takeaway here is this powerful reframing of our pain. Our struggles, our rocks, they aren't random accidents. They aren't punishments. They are intentional preparations for a future that only the divine architect can see.
And that leaves us with one last question to really sit with. Your problems might feel like heavy, useless rocks today. That's real. But now the question becomes, what future drought are they getting you ready for? What incredible, unseen harvest could they be protecting right now?